Again, please be seated for the arrival of the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the Prime Minister. You may be seated. The Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Mr. Fitz Jackson, Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern, Senator Damian Crawford, Opposition Spokesman on Education, the Honorable Iselin Golding, Custos Rotolorum for the Parish of St. Catherine, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Mr. Ryan Reed, Chairman of the National Education Trust, Mr. Joseph Shuker, Chairman of the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings, Mrs. Latoya Harris Garte, Executive Director of the National Education Trust, heads of agencies and departments of government, members of the Ministry of Education and Youth and other agencies of the ministry, councillors, specially invited guests, members of the media, everyone. Good morning. Again, everyone, good morning. Thank you. May I begin by saying how honored I am, and my name is Archibald Gordon, by the way, to be the moderator of this official landmarking ceremony for the first STEAM Secondary Academy in Jamaica's history, undertaken by the National Education Trust and the Ministry of Education and Youth. And this will be the first of 6 new STEAM secondary level institutions and 1 new visual and performing arts secondary level institution. History is literally being made today, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And as someone who grew up not too far away from here, I am especially pleased. Now, for those of you who are familiar with St. Catherine, I'm from Windsor Road in St. Catherine, and I usually tell people that in order to locate Windsor Road, you have to know where the salt factory is. So if you know where the salt factory is, you follow the salt factory across the highway down. That's where I'm from. And as someone who went to school not very far from here, first at Spanish Town Primary and then St. Jago High, and who is proud to have been born and to have grown up in this parish, I'm happy that this ceremony is taking place in St. Catherine. You can go ahead, round of applause. When I look at the people in the audience this morning, I'm reminded of one of my favorite phrases, and this is a quote uttered by the late American philanthropist and author Helen Keller. And that quote is, "Alone you can do so little. Together we can do so much." So for me, this morning is a representation of partnership and the importance of partnership in getting things done. Helen Keller says it one way, but we say it another way in Jamaica. We say, no man or woman is an island. We say we need each other to get things done. So today represents that kind of partnership, and it's the kind of partnership required to catapult us forward, because what's the reality that we all really face? Getting students ready for the fourth industrial revolution is vital. It is critical. Because in the next 10 to 20 years, current jobs, including my own perhaps as a journalist, will, because of the fourth industrial revolution, be impacted by computerization and technology. Some of you may have Googled for things or gone on YouTube and you have seen people, journalists, really computer systems, who are doing reports, which means that one day there will be no need for an Archibald Gordon or anyone else, any kind of journalist, perhaps even including other kinds of professions as well. If we do not take the steps needed now, we will be left behind. And that demands a paradigm shift in education. It demands a paradigm shift in how we think of education. Now, one of my first encounters with this idea of STEAM was when I worked as a creative on the British Council's Social Enterprise in Schools project, and I had to go around the country and learn about how students were being engaged in social enterprises. And I remember Guys Hill High School in particular. At Guys Hill High School, students were creating light from essentially rubbish. They were looking for old fluorescent bulbs, and they were divided along the areas that they were specialists in. So art students were engaged in design. They were using different things. They were using bamboo, for instance, to make the bulb designs. And physics students could apply the principles in their own way as well. I remember one of the students in particular, Delroy, and Delroy said that he didn't have the opportunity to be able to practice outside of school. So what did he do? He said, when I got home, I didn't have the bulbs, so I used a piece of transparent garden hose with a piece of stick and another piece of hose with a bulb at the top to create a model of what I wanted to do. So excited was he about what he was learning in school that he went home and he had to find a way of being engaged, of extending the learning even more. And that speaks to the power of STEM. Now, that was just one of the examples I saw as I covered that program. I went to other schools where students made up songs to communicate the ideas that they had learned. Students at Holland High School, I remember, fixed the outside of their school. They fixed potholes. They used old newspapers to raise money in order to fix problems in their community. They were, in essence, applying STEAM. So, what we're talking about here today is not just a good theory. It is a revolution in action, really. And so as we go about today, I want us to keep that in mind, that today we are creating history and we're creating a revolution in education. And to lead us off in this morning's ceremony, I want to invite forward to set us off on the right path Apostle Joan Mattis from the Vision Apostolic House of Prayer, after which I'll return to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Other dignitaries here, friends, I'm going to invite you to stand with me. With our heads bowed, gracious, loving Redeemer, Creator of all things, Giver of all life, holy, righteous are you, Lord. I'm truly thankful for this opportunity, for this privilege, my Father, to humbly stand before your presence. Father, we know that unless you build a house, they labor in vain that build it. We know unless you watch the city, the watchman who watches in vain. We understand, my Lord, that you must be the foundation. We understand, my Lord, it doesn't matter how great our policies are. It doesn't matter how great our innovations are. We understand, my Lord, that unless you are the rock on which we build, all that we'll do, Father, will not find sweet success. So we thank you for your presence. We thank you that you're already here. We thank you, Lord, that everything that will be done this afternoon or this morning will be done in alignment with your plans for this community, for our nation. We thank you, Lord, for your Son that you have placed over us in this hour, in this dispensation. We thank you, my Lord, for the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding that you've given him. May you continue, Lord, to give him the support that he requires so that everything, God, he touches will come forth as pure gold, all for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
I don't think I will ever get used to the idea of having a lectern cleaned after absolutely every speaker, but it's where we are today, and it's one of the problems that we have to solve. We have to figure out how we deal with pandemics, because this is not going to be the only one that we have to endure, and we also have to figure out how we deal with the reason you're all fanning this morning, which is climate change. And I have to say, at this point and at this juncture, I have a lot more sympathy for our next speaker, Mr. Linval Freeman, because Mr. Freeman, you have to work out here in all of this heat. So please welcome Mr. Linval Freeman. He's chairman of the Greater Bernal Lodge Development Enterprise Team.
Thank you, Garfield. And I must say, I don't know if it's a coincidence that you are from St. Catherine, born and bred. I am from St. Catherine, born and bred, and I'm sure when the Honorable Prime Minister comes and speak, he will also say he's from St. Catherine, born and bred. And the Minister as well. But Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, Mr. Fitzjackson, Member of Parliament, St. Catherine Southern, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Acting Permanent Secretary, His Worship the Mayor. I don't see the mayors, but shall I move to the Honorable Iselin Golding, who is the Custos for the Parish of St. Catherine, Mr. Ryan Reed, Chairman, National Education Trust, Mrs. Latoya Harris Gartley, Executive Director, National Education Trust, heads of government departments, other members of government ministries, councillors, students, and special invited guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to bring greetings on behalf of the other members of the Enterprise team. The Enterprise team was appointed by Cabinet in January 2021 and commenced work in February 2021. The ET is charged with the responsibility of overseeing the divestment of certain blocks of land by competitive tender to build residential houses, and we have 16,000 as the number of houses that we have earmarked to build, light industrial and commercial complexes, the allocation of spaces for social services, for the establishment of educational and health facilities, a security command center, a fire station, among others, as well as the building of a modern urban town center with modern ground transportation and other amenities. The development, however, of what we call the master plan for the Greater Bernal Lodge area is not complete without being environmentally friendly. And so our process will also include the establishment of a number of green spaces, some of which will be designated for recreational purposes. The divestment process, having started in February, if I was to make a call on it, has gone very well so far. And it's been done in phases. We have already completed 2 phases. And so phase 1 and 2 of the divestment process, we have managed, and the cabinet has approved all the blocks of lands that were offered for sale. For those phases, we were able to privatize 7 residential blocks and 2 light industrial blocks, adding to a total of 265 acres. In addition to those blocks that have already been divested, the enterprise team has reserved 2 blocks for the National Housing Trust and for the HAJ, totaling 100 acres for the construction of middle to low income houses as part of the development plan for the Greater Burnham Lodge area. We went to market this October with phase 3, which comprises 3 residential lots and 2 light industrial blocks, covering a total of 204 acres. This bid process will close early December, and already we have significant interest in the blocks. The Urban Town Center, which will involve the building out of a modern town center with multi-use facilities over 61 acres, will go to market in November 2022. And based on our market sounding to date, the interest that we have generated is overwhelming. My expectation is that the entire privatization process will be completed within the next 12 months. All we have now left is the engagement of the other ministries that are responsible for transportation, security, and health in order to complete this process. Just to indicate that the agreement with the approved bidders, as approved by Cabinet, requires that construction work for the various facilities, be it social, residential, or commercial, should commence within 24 months of the close of the sale or the PPP arrangements. And so within 24 to 36 months from today, I expect that the entire Greater Burnham Lodge area will be basically transformed and abuzz with construction activities. And it is projected that several hundred persons will be employed during the construction period. I'm very happy then to be participating in a ceremony, and if I should say it myself, to see some of the fruits of our labor as the ET, and to witness the Ministry of Education taking ownership and really branding the lot that was allocated to them. I look forward to the coming months, to be back here in 36 months, to see a real state-of-the-art institution under construction. My best wishes to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. Before we move on to the next speaker, I'd just like to acknowledge some of the other partners in the room in the form of the principals here. We have principals from Jose Marti High School here, Greater Portmore High, Michael University College, as well as St. Catherine High. If they don't mind, would you stand, please, so we can recognize you? I'd also like to recognize Mr. Glenn Christian from CariMed, one of the partners working along this area. Thank you very much. Now it is time for our next speaker. He is Mr. Fitz Jackson. He's the Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern, and I had sort of a tongue-in-cheek introduction for him that I was wondering whether I should risk, but I'm going to go ahead with it and say that though he's known for his advocacy on bank fees and all things banking related, he's in fact passionate about a lot of other kinds of things, and this morning is an example of one of those things, which is education. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald, Prime Minister. Welcome to this side of the world again. And we are not tired of you coming here, Prime Minister. You know you always have a warm welcome this side of the world. Minister of Education, Honorable Favor Williams, your Permanent Secretary, Acting Chief Education Officer, and all the other members of the Ministry of Education, Mr. Freeman, the head honcho of the development program, Apostle Mattis, my principals, at least I can claim one of them, from Greater Portmore High, Mr. Ross, my good friend, Glenn, I want more groundbreaking over here that I can see you more often. Prime Minister, I'm reporting Glenn Christian to you. He's making himself too scarce. Though he has set up a marvelous facility just down the road from here. Our senior soup, SSP, Phillips, other members of the JCF. Members all, I greet you and I greet you well. Archibald, since you're on about St. Catherine, nobody thinks says you alone. I was born and bred in Lloydersville, St. Catherine. And I was born and bred in St. Catherine before you and the Prime Minister too, so I have little parish seniority and you all. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this groundbreaking event. But Prime Minister, I was a little bit combobulated when I spoke to a member of the National Education Trust team upon extending the invitation, and I sought to clarify what was the nature of the event. And they said it was a site marking. So, wow. So I said, what difference is that from groundbreaking? She said, no, groundbreaking will come after. So I was pondering in my mind if there's a thing called thought breaking too. Because before the site, some thought have to come about. So many break-ins taking place for the one event. So we'll see the Prime Minister at the groundbreaking. I don't know if I'm seeing him at the opening because he may not be in office at that time when it's completed, but he will be here for the groundbreaking. I could miss that one, Prime Minister. No, man, that is well established. And South St. Catherine has already answered that, even in challenging times. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, the erection of an educational facility is always welcome. This general location was one contemplated for a primary school some years ago when the Ministry of Education survey indicated that there was a shortage of primary school space in this geographic space, and therefore this Dunbeholden area was tipped because the land was available, being government owned, that could site a primary school. Somehow in the passage of time, the primary school obviously has been shelved for what is now taking place. And as Archibald said, any educational development facility is something that I have an uncompromising support for and will always do. Why? Because for many of us Jamaicans who come from humble beginning, it is only through education that we can break the cycle of poverty, persons can realize their dreams, and ultimately our communities and Jamaica can be transformed. And therefore it is imperative that we give a focused attention on it. Regrettably, and I can say across administration, we have not done enough in that regard. I'm one of those who subscribe to the proposition that there are some areas of government, such as national security, education, and health, must transcend political boundaries. Because regardless of which administration is in power for what time, what period, those things are critical both for national development and for the well-being of our ordinary citizens. And it has to be done in that kind of way. the truth be told, we have talked about it, but we have not manifested. And as we say in Jamaican parlance, the taste is in the pudding. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. It is not what we promulgate. It is what we manifest in our practice that makes the difference. Speeches are good. They can sound good. But they only last as long as the words come out of your mouth until you bring them into action. And that's what we have not done a good job of. And we must use every occasion to change and go a different path. Archibald in his opening comments referred to Miss Keller. And this is where Prime Minister have a little beef. Serious one. Because it undermines the very point that I made about that collective oneness and critical areas of national development. What I have a beef with is about how we go about them in simple everyday events, like even this event. I was invited just at the ceremony. All the planning that was being done to site it here, I was totally ignorant of it. I only become aware of it when an invitation was sent to me. Mary Keller speak about inclusiveness, oneness, working together. So we talk about these things and we applaud them, but in our actions we defy it. And in so doing, our sincerity becomes questioned. Not because I say so, but because of our manifest behavior. And why this is significant to me, Prime Minister, just up the road there at Brayton Primary and Junior High, I lobbied hard with the ministry, from the ministerial level, permanent secretary, regional level, to cut out the junior high section and focus on a primary, because the junior high was under-equipped and nothing was happening on that side. While at the same time, the ministry survey told us that we need more primary space in this area. So while I lobbied hard to get everybody on board in the ministry, to cut out the junior high, expand and develop the primary section, the ministry behind my back did cut out the primary school, the junior high section, and they inserted an infant department. I was and remain incensed. Why? Right now at Brayton Primary and infant, the utilization of the infant department is under 50%. But at the same time, I have 3 other basic schools within 200 miles below 50%. Walking distance. How do we deploy and optimize our national resources? If they had just had some consultation. It's not nothing we went to war about. Just plain this. And I spent over $5 million with Marlin Avenue Basic School to get it registered and certified by the Early Childhood Commission. One of the first early childhood institution approved by the Early Childhood Commission. The principal and I had many discussions about the closure of the school because of the low utilization. So the money spent, space is there, capacity is there, underutilized, but we spend more money over by Brayton Infant. And just the school beginning of this year, the principal come pleading to me for assistance to assist with upgrading to meet the Early Childhood Commission requirement. It can't work. These are doable things. So all my plea here, we can't go anywhere. We can talk the talk, but we're not doing what we ought to do. And that, of course, Prime Minister, I raised with what has happened up at Sundown Palms with the houses that were built in an area that was reserved for green space. Why? Because the HAJ decided to go around me, go behind my back, notwithstanding many attempts to utilize it for similar activity. And they are building houses for $22 million. 2 bedrooms, just up the corner and right across the road, Gores is building similar 2-bedroom units for $14.6 million. Those, it just don't add up. as they say, don't maths out for just reasoning. These are not things we're making up. Why? Because we don't have no consultation. We talk about it as being ideal, but our manifestations are different. So I'm hoping that as we go forward, Archibald, I won't stay any longer. No one want to get rid of me from the microphone, right? But this is my own ground. At the end of the day, when the speeches are over and the sermonings are over, I will have to live with the reality of the people who live in and around this area. That's the reason why it means a lot to me. I have to deal with it, as I have had to do over the past many years. And Prime Minister, I'll be dealing with it for many, many more years. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. Time now for our next speaker. But before we get to our next speaker, I'd like to acknowledge Mrs. Cecile Rowe, who is a principal of Innswood High School. Mrs. Rowe? Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Another of our valued partners, and from St. Catherine, again, just promoting St. Catherine as I go along. Now, our next speaker is from the National Education Trust, and this is a sort of interesting sort of confluence of events, I would say. The National Education Trust, the policy direction for the National Education Trust, was set out in the then Honorable Minister of Education's 2008 sectoral presentation as follows. It says, the concept of the net is born out of the need to create a secure and certain fiscal space for ongoing long-term capital investment and infrastructure development in education. That minister at the time, as it turns out, was setting that policy direction is the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, and NET came into being under his tenure as Minister of Education. And now he has the opportunity to see NET actually go forward in terms of that sort of infrastructure development, putting vision into reality. I'd like to find out, for us to find out rather, about the next steps, next plans for NET. I invite forward the chairman of NET, Mr. Ryan Reed.
Thank you. Thank you, Archibald. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. The Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth. Mr. Fitz Jackson, I hope I'm in your good graces, sir. MP for St. Catherine Southern. His Worship the Mayor Norman Scott. Councillor Leon Thomas, Portmore Municipal Corporation. The Honorable Iselin Golding, Custos for the Parish of St. Catherine. Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Youth. Mr. Joseph Shakir, I'm not seeing him. Mrs. Latoya Harris-Garty, Executive Director of the National Education Trust. Heads of agencies and departments of government, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. I am delighted to bring remarks at this official landmarking ceremony of the first of 7 purpose-built STEAM academies in Jamaica. I am proud for 3 distinct reasons. 1, because I'm very passionate about education and the role education can and must play in transforming the lives of the average Jamaican. 2, being the son of a former headmistress, and Archibald, that school of which you spoke, Holland High School, my mother is a founding headmistress of that school. And thirdly, as chairman of the National Education Trust and being a member of that team, we are proud that this organization is leading the charge to transform the education landscape through the implementation of the STEAM School Project. The physical project will consist of 7 STEAM academies designed to be climate resilient, green, and technology driven. It will have an environment conducive for STEAM curriculum and instruction, thus maximizing creativity, curiosity, intellectual rigor, and innovation for Jamaican students and educators. According to Professor Anthony Clayton from the University of the West Indies, by 2050, of the 6 billion people in the world's workforce, 5 billion will be doing jobs that do not exist today due to the rapid transformation of technology. Now, what does this mean for Jamaica? We must aggressively transform our economy to not only compete, but more so to remain relevant. We must move full steam ahead. We must commit to a full steam approach to upskill our citizens through quality education. What role do we all play to bridge the divide between global markets and our Jamaican classrooms? When do we unearth the gold mine of the instructional process to elicit critical thinking and collaboration by embracing technology? Ladies and gentlemen, the time is today. The National Education Trust is committed to this vision for the future. Our STEAM goals embody the Vision 2030 Jamaica National Development Plan for an excellent education and training system that promotes internationally competitive industry structures. As a financier, I can tell you that a successful STEAM project will cause our economy to be stimulated for growth. As chairman, I can tell you that this will only be possible through viable partnerships. Partnership is at the core of all our efforts, and it will take a great number of commitment, funding, and collaboration to achieve these goals. Today's occasion is possible because of partnerships. We are indeed grateful. Firstly, we thank the government who has made this one of our nation's legacy projects in this our 60th year of independence. We thank the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings Limited, who has made this land that we're now situated available in the Greater Bernard Lodge development plans. And so on behalf of the Board of Directors and management of the National Education Trust, I extend our sincere appreciation and look forward to continued partnership as we affirm our commitment to the efficient implementation of the project. I assure you that the NET team will remain steadfast to our values of credibility, accountability, innovation, and responsiveness in our duty to add value to the education system. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed. So on a day when we are talking about making history, our next speaker is a history maker herself. Her accomplishments span banking, property management and investment, political representation, you can say right now, and education. And at her core is this idea of service beyond the self. Please make welcome our Honorable Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good day, everyone. All right. Let me acknowledge Mr. Archibald Gordon, Master of Ceremonies, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Let me also bring apologies for Minister Vaz, Minister of Science, Energy and Technology. Let me acknowledge Mr. Fitzjackson, Member of Parliament, St. Catherine Southern. Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Acting Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Education and Youth, and with her is Dr. Kassan Troop, our Chief Education Officer Acting, all the members from the Ministry of Education and Youth. His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Norman Scott, St. Catherine. His Worship the Mayor, Leon Thomas, Portmore Municipal Corporation. We have in our midst as well the Honourable Iselin Golden, Custos Rotalorum for the Parish of St. Catherine. And you just heard from Mr. Ryan Reed, Chairman, the National Education Trust, And there are other members of the board here this morning. Let me acknowledge you. Mr. Lindvall Freeman, who gave us that very comprehensive overview of the Greater Bernard Lodge Development Enterprise Team. Good day to you, sir. Ms. Latoya Harris, Executive Director, National Education Trust. All the heads of agencies and departments of government, counselors, principals, students, teachers, of course, Mr. Glenn Christian, and I could not, without acknowledging SSP Phillips and all the members of the JCF who are here today. And if I've missed anyone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good day again to everyone. Today's landmarking ceremony is a significant step forward in the government's efforts to engage and develop students' interest in science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. In addition, this project to develop Jamaica's first STEAM Academy, one of our legacy projects for our 60th year of independence, is central to the continuing transformation of the education system to make it fit for purpose for our 21st century society and to propel the national strategy for education development through the advancement and mainstreaming of STEAM education at the secondary level. I'm really, really excited at what this means for preparing Jamaican students for current and emerging jobs, as well as in helping them to develop their own innovative and critical thinking skills to carve new niches. Within this context, the Ministry of Education and Youth has identified increasing the number of students pursuing STEM education as a national imperative. This is out of a recognition of the urgent need to increase the level of innovation and critical thinking required for future careers and economic advancement in Jamaica. A STEM curriculum, as you know, is meant to engage all students in learning by allowing students to explore a problem as a team, exchange ideas among their fellow students, and build and rebuild their ideas, put their ideas into practice, and develop their creative competence through innovation. In that regard, to meet any one part of or all of the aims and objectives of STEAM education, there must be educated and trainable people who can adapt to the changing environment and its requirement. And I know that we have Principal Pinnock here from Jamaica, and we have Mr. Glenn Christian, and I know those are two institutions through the foundation that is quite interested in launching an institution to train STEM teachers. And we are going to need those as we build out these 6 STEM schools and the 1 performing arts school. So we are here to work with you to ensure that that dream becomes a reality. When this STEM Academy is completed, we expect to enroll some 2,400 students, and that is significant. So the transformation of the education system is therefore indispensable in developing a STEAM learning culture. Much of the support systems that we have in our national standards curriculum rely on the use of modern communication technology to enable the teaching and learning process designed to pitch the standard of Jamaican education to world-class level, thereby creating a cadre of students who are globally ready and competitive. So we are optimistic that this will be a game changer in the education system, and we're looking forward to welcoming our first cohort of students in the STEAM Academy in the very near future. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Minister. And so, we've been talking about education and about STEAM, and this, of course, involves students. So, we want to hear from students as well. I'd like to invite forward for a performance Mr. Akil Tucker, who is head boy of Greater Portmore High School. Akil?
Education, education. We need it in our nation. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Tell the youths them a school, say for put the scamming down. Some of them dress up nice, come a school for look cool, but a pity them no know say that a turn them in a fool. Them only intention a come a school for look cute. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Science, technology, mathematics. It no matter where you're there because they have to get the topic. Could have fast or slow. Education have to have it. No B, no C, A plus. Ma have to copy it. Rise up, buckle up. Get a book and shuffle up. If your grade was 40, study harder, make it double up. You better know where you want. But when you make them go on, them not gonna help you through the rocky road, not even through the storm. Everything very smart, meditate like you read the Psalms. Have to be very calm and humble like Tom, cause him do him work and study, no procrastinate at all. Make me move to some artists. Them drawing very nice. Them know to move them and sweep like a melting ice. Mechanic work hard from dusk till dawn. Early morning them gone to fix a car 1 yard. Listen up, do your work, cause everything it work. Mommy and daddy work hard to put you in a school shirt. No bother get on them nerves. Make them feel like you're the worst, cause if you feel everything, them a go feel very hurt. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Tell the youths, them a school, say for put the scamming down. Some of them dress up nice, come a school for look cool, but a pity them no know say that a turn them in a fool. Them only intention a come a school for look cute. Make me tell you something. You never know. STEAM, just go with the flow. Science, engineering, arts, mathematics, technology. You cannot compare that to a meteorologist. Even though you need mathematics, if you want to be a chemist, got to go to a college and get a lot of knowledge. Could that be a magician? You cannot beat a mathematician. Them divide, subtract, even do some addition. Them even make some decision because them know them have the vision. Them even make some decision because they know them have the vision, not to mention IT, because it programmers need. Education, education. We need it in our nation. Education, education. We need it in our nation. In our nation.
Thank you very much, Akil. Akil was spitting lyrics until he had to stop for a minute just to go back over it. So, for those of you who are from St. Catherine, I apologize for, I'm sorry for those of you who are not from St. Catherine, but there is a bit of a friendly rivalry between St. Catherine High School and St. Jago High School. So I'm going to assume that that is not the reason behind the fact that the next speaker is going to be introduced, not by myself from St. Jago High School, but by the head boy of St. Catherine High School, Mr. Davian Irwin. Please make Mr. Irwin welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald Gordon, Master of Ceremony. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Mr. Ryan Reid, Chairman of the National Education Trust, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, Chief Education Officer Dr. Kazan Troop, and other guests present today. Morning to you all. The Most Honorable The Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness was first elected as Member of Parliament to represent the constituency of West Central St. Andrew in 1997 at the age of 25. Mr. Holness has pledged to build real partnerships with the private sector, civil society, the diaspora, the opposition, and international partners in order to achieve the vision of shared prosperity for all Jamaicans through inclusive economic growth and meaningful job creation. Prior to assuming the awesome responsibility of leading the nation, Mr. Holness has worked steadily at various levels of the political and governance systems. He has focused on several key developments, housing, and education. However, it is in the area of education that Mr. Holness found his passion and distinguished himself as both the opposition spokesperson on education and in the cabinet as Minister of Education. He brought national attention and focus to literacy and has instituted several programs to place Jamaica on the path to universal literacy at the primary level. Under his watch, Jamaica saw the introduction of the Career Advancement Program, a post-secondary technical and vocational training program for unattached youth. However, some of Mr. Holness's more fundamental reforms to the education system include the establishment of institutions such as the Jamaica Teaching Council, the National Education Trust, the National Education Inspectorate, National College of Education Leadership, the Centers of Excellence Program, and the Alternative Secondary Transition Education Program, designed to support students falling behind in general education. Mr. Holness attended the great St. Catherine High School, where he was both head boy and valedictorian. With a Master of Science in Development Studies and a Bachelor of Science in Management Studies from the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, Mr. Holness brings a vibrant, pragmatic energy to the transformation of public sector administration and to making government more agile and responsive. The focus of his government is to grow the economy, create jobs, and improve the well-being of the Jamaican people. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our Prime Minister, the Honorable Andrew Holness.
Thank you, Davian, for the introduction. Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Let me greet everyone generally and thank you for participating in this ceremony. You will forgive my, let me phrase what I'm about to say this way. I do several ceremonies per day, sometimes 3 or 4. So it is not ceremonial fatigue, but having done so many of them, I will choose to dispense with several of the protocols which lengthen the ceremonies. And I think that at times, the ceremonies lose their effect of exactly what it is that we are trying to communicate, because we go through so many steps to get to the point. So bear with me. I am the last speaker. You would have gone through so many steps. Your attention may not be 100%. But I will, as much as possible, try to keep your attention without being too entertaining. So let me start this way. We are here on lands which were formerly a sugar plantation. And for centuries, sugar was planted here. In fact, sugar was part of the first industrial revolution. Yeah. At that time, we spent quite a bit of our effort in producing sugar as our main product for trade. It was produced mainly by forced labor, enslavement. But there was some technology involved, especially in the sugar mills. And as steam power and technology developed, you found that it became uneconomical to produce sugar using slavery. And there is a huge debate as to why slavery ended. Was it the moral enlightenment of the enslavers? Was it the aggression and resistance of the enslaved? Or was it the economics of sugar and slavery? Dr. Eric Williams, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, wrote the seminal text on this matter, Capitalism and Slavery. And he contended that whilst everything played a role, the real issue was that it was uneconomical. Why do I start here? We tend in Jamaica to get caught in debates that don't pay enough attention to the facts of the situation, to the realities of the situation. Technology changes everything. And as we progress and as we develop technology, it is the nations that develop technology, but more importantly, the nations that own technology, that own the future. For me, this is a big thing. To stand on the grounds of a former sugar plantation and say, we are going to build a technology school to produce the people of Jamaica who will not just be consumers of technology, but will become producers of technology, because that is the true liberation of our people. Until we understand that and not get trapped into the old debates about what this land should be used for and who should get the land. These debates that we have been having for centuries and since our independence for decades, but we have done nothing about it. It has been a long time in coming that we should have reached this point. We had several sugar factories around Jamaica. They became uneconomical, but governments still subsidized them. It eventually reached a point where in 2009, the decision was made before 2009, was made during the administration of the PNP in the era before 2007. The Jamaica Labour Party executed the decision in 2009 that we would divest the sugar factories. And we divested most of them, if not all of them. This was one of the estates that was divested. The private sector company who bought it soon realized that it was unprofitable to manufacture sugar from this estate. And what happened was that the sugar was transported to Monimus, the sugar cane rather. So the writing has been on the wall that the economics and the technology and the market just was not in favor of us continuing to produce sugar here. And so eventually, this estate, the majority of the lands, fell out of sugar production. What are we going to do with it? There is a view expressed severally across some platforms that we should cut up the land and give it to farmers. We should just cut up the land and give it away. I am not opposed to that. I believe that as a part of the reparations for sugar and enslavement, that government ought to take a very enlightened and proactive approach in ensuring that the average Jamaican gets access to land. But how do we do this? Do we just leave up the land, people go and settle on it, and then afterwards we come in and try to say, all right, let me move your boundary from where you had staked it back 10 feet so that I can put a road for you, I can put sewer there for you. Or I may have to ask you to relocate from here to go elsewhere. Is that how it should be done? But there are those who believe it should be just done like that, and if it is established, leave it as it is. This government took an enlightened approach and said, before we allow chaos to reign, and everyone like the frontier in Western America, where you just ride out with your horse and the first man who would drop down his stake is his land. So if you don't have a horse and you're not bad, and you can't fight off people, you get no land. Let us have an orderly way of developing these lands which were formerly sugar lands. Let us acknowledge that the value of the land is not just for housing, it's not just for agriculture, it is not just for the potential in commerce, it is not just for the potential in education, it is all of the above. And I know that every Jamaican has a dream about how we can develop our country spatially and physically. I know every Jamaican has a dream of seeing beautiful houses, well-paved roads, regular garbage collection, electricity and internet, and reliable water coming into their homes. Every Jamaican has that dream. But you know what a dream is? A dream is what you see when you close your eyes. My job is to move dreams into visions and then into reality. So I have opened my eyes long ago, and we have created a vision. It doesn't exist, but you can see it because you have planned it out, you have put it on paper. My job is to communicate that vision to you, the plans to you, so you can see it. That this is not a plan to harm you. This is a plan about your own future and hope and prosperity. And I see Fitz there just whining in his seat because that one touched him. It's a vision about making this country prosperous. Because ultimately, who are the people that will inhabit the new Greater Bernard Lodge development? It will still be the children, grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren of the people who toiled as enslaved on this plantation. But it will be done in an orderly way, in a fair way, in a way that will guarantee a legacy for their children and children and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come. So let us not disparage orderly development. Let us not seek to cast it as being unfair. And let us not believe that it is only one set of people in Jamaica who has the moral conscience for right and wrong. That is only one set of people who understands about Jamaica's food security, who understands about climate change, who understands about protecting water. This government has done more than any other government regarding steps to protect our environment, protect our water, ensure our resilience to climate change, ensure our food security, ensure our energy security. This government. So we don't just do developments that are unidimensional. We do developments that are holistic. So in this development, we have reserved over 1,000 acres for farmers. And there are some fantastic farming enterprises going on here. It's not perfect. It is still in a development stage. The farmers have reached out to me about the reliability of their irrigation. They have reached out to me about security issues. They have reached out to me. Again, you know, pray their last is a big one, but they have also reached out to say, Prime Minister, what can you do to help us coordinate with the other farmers who have livestock, whose livestock, you know, roaming in their fields and destroying their fields. But these are things that we are working on. We have started the vision of having a well-organized agro-park, an agricultural zone in this urban development. On my way in, I saw a lovely facility that was recently built. You know what, let me not go too much because I'm coming back to open it. Right? But there are others there. And we have reserved lands for light industrial development within the Bernard Lodge development. We have reserved land for an urban town center. We have reserved land for housing. Now, Fitz, my friend, pointed out that you have houses being built for 22 million and you have houses being built for 14 million. In other words, you're going to have a diversity of housing options here. We have reserved 100 acres of land for the NHT and the HAJ to build houses that will be accessible to those who fall within the low-income earning bracket. So this is not just going to be a place where only middle-income and upper-income people will be able to live. No, no city, no society can be built like that. You have to make deliberate provisions for the most vulnerable, for the poorest, And that is being done deliberately by the government. The government has given the land, not sold it. So the cost of the units will not have the cost of the land in it. And therefore the prices will be lower. But I'm not here today to do a defense of this project in total. What I'm here today is to show you the full circle and the comprehensive approach that the government has taken to your national development, to the use of your land, that it incorporates everyone. So we have reserved several acres, 22 acres in this lot for social services, including a school. Now, several years ago, the government of Jamaica recognized that if we are to survive in this fourth industrial revolution, we need to be producing a new Jamaican. I'm not the first person to use the term a new Jamaican. I recall when Prime Minister Patterson used it in a budget presentation a few years ago. He too would have recognized that the world is changing rapidly and that we need to empower our Jamaicans, not just to be citizens of Jamaica, but to be citizens of this new world that is emerging around us. And the truth is that our education system produces Jamaicans who can maneuver and articulate well in the new world, but it is not an even system. It doesn't do this for all Jamaicans. And we need to transform our education system so that every Jamaican, regardless of the school that you go to, you come out with the socio-emotional intelligence to be a productive, pro-social, pro-growth, socially and emotionally intelligent individual. If you look on Jamaican social media today, you will be depressed. It is depressing. I can talk this way because I don't care. My job is to reflect to the nation the challenges. But many leaders are quiet, though they privately complain. If we don't do something to halt the deterioration of our society, in a couple of years, the country could be ungovernable. So I have to stand up and make sure that the right policies are in place, regardless of the popular tide. And the right policy to be put in place is to make sure that we are building schools that are going to be empowering our young people with science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Now, I'm quickly going to be reminded that I left out A, arts. So yes, there will be a school dedicated to train our upcoming entertainers and DJs and musicians, our visual and creative artists in the technical and softer points of the entertainment industry, because we believe that that is a space that we own and we can exploit for our economic and social development. So we have taken this decision to build, is it six STEM schools? And it is going to cost a total of 133,000, no, I have it wrong, 133 million US dollars. $133 million US to build those 6 schools. There are several components in building those schools. It's not just the brick and mortar. We're going to have to do institutional strengthening for the governance of those schools. Those schools can't be run like ordinary schools. We can't build those schools for them to fall into the lull that exists generally in some of our education institutions. If we make that level of investments, those schools must continue to be exceptional schools decade after the investment is made. Then the infrastructure part of it, the schools themselves will be about $115.2 million US. So these are not small allocations for the schools. We're going to put in the necessary ICT support, that is the computer, and training in computer sciences so that the teachers are able to integrate computer technology in every aspect of the curriculum. And then we have to do the capacity building. That is the training of the teachers. And I know that there are universities here, the micro university is one, who is planning through Glen Christian to establish a STEM teacher training institution. I want to applaud you, Glenn, for taking that lead and that initiative. I know you are seeking lands. There's a whole heap of land over here that we are willing to give. And I would encourage you to look at this development, partner with the Ministry of Education. It would probably make better sense to house the training right here. Because right where we are standing, Glenn, is going to be a new city. You will have about 15,000 homes. You will have, as you have already planted roots here, a light industrial park. You will have farmers in the thousands here. You will have business process outsourcing and other knowledge-based industries. That will be the manifestation fits of the investments that we are making here. But more than that, we have set the tone that this will be an orderly development. This will not be a place where disorder had its origin. It is going to be based on order and the rule of law. So this will be a place where Jamaicans will consider it safe to live, work, raise your families, and do business. So we are well on our way. I agree with you, Fitz, that we could have just done the groundbreaking. But when I spoke with the minister, she pointed out to me that it is important to lay claim to the land. So once we have laid claim to it, it is demarked on the plan as for social services. But as you have pointed out, after the plan is laid and then the technocrats go to negotiate, somebody might come and say, I have a plan. The next one come and say, I have a plan. And then before you know it, the acreage reserved has been pared down or designated for some other use within the general use. So what the minister is doing is being proactive in staking claim to the land. But this is not just a public relations exercise. There is another step. Now, once we have identified the land, the planning is in place, it has gone to our public sector investment, what we call PIMSEC, or Public Sector Investment Management Committee. It has been approved. So then the next step is that we are going to be engaging now in a public-private partnership to actually build a school. The engagement in public-private partnerships can take a little while. It can take, anywhere from a year to 2 years. But I'm hoping, Minister, that we can move very quickly starting from today, because I will put a bet with Fitz that I'm not going to come to any groundbreaking. I am going to be the Prime Minister opening these schools. So we're going to do it very quickly. So, Fitz, I tell you this, right? I've had a wonderful time serving the Jamaican people. You and I have been in it about the same time. Yeah, we came in about the same time. Yeah, this is going into my 26th year now, and you are 29 years. So we've been in it for a little while, right? I know I still have a lot of energy to go. I'm quietly, doing my exercise, managing my weight, just trying to keep fit, mentally sound and agile, and regardless of whatever the issues are. Whatever the issues are, I face the Jamaican people. I confront them. So if an issue happens in the family, I confront them, I raise it, I put it out there. And unlike, former prime ministers and politicians that don't always address all the issues and allow them to take root, as soon as I see them happening, I jump on top of them. I deal with the issues. Like it or not, you are not going to agree with everything I say, and that's just how it is. But you know my mind. And in knowing my mind, you also know my heart. And that is just the reality. We always serve at the behest of the people. So it's the people's will. Whatever the people's will, that is where my heart is. I read the people's will to be, they want development, but they want fairness. And more than anything else, they want security and order. And that is what we are working towards. My job is to manage all the disparate elements and bring them together, right, in one vision and one direction. So we are here at Bernard Lodge ensuring the fulfillment of that vision. We will have a STEM school here. It will be the first STEM school. It will be a high-quality institution of excellence for every Jamaican, probably more directed to the most vulnerable in our society to ensure that we reverse decades of poor access to good quality education. If we can convince our partners in MoEY to locate their facilities here, then we will also have a teacher training institution that will ensure that we can provide the right quality skills. And it would make sense, right? And then who knows? Maybe we can then adopt the infant schools and the basic schools that are here and properly coordinate those resources so we can serve efficiently in an optimal way our young people and start to bend their minds from early to be citizens of the new world. That is the objective. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that I was sufficiently entertaining, that you got the message, that you are now ambassadors of the message, and that you see that my heart is for the people of Jamaica. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. Your speech reminds me of that quote. It says that a people without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots. For those of us who are students of history, when I did Caribbean history, both at the high school, both at the CSEC level and at A level, a lot of that surrounds sugar and slavery, and so much of it is about this that we actually see the land. So we're going to be having a virtual tour right now. And Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to invite you here, as well as a minister to your right. And you're going to be guided through a virtual tour using a drone, because this is, after all, a STEAM function, by Javon Robinson of the National Education Trust. Mr. Robinson, come forward, please.
Let's get closer. I'm not blocked.
And you can see, we will be able to see the tour or the area on the screen, just in a second, of course. Mr. Reed, can you come forward as well, please? You know, of course, it's technology, so it takes a little fixing and a little tweaking, but it's up. It's up, no worries.
Yes. So it's a little slow, but you'll be able to see in just a few. So that's the Dunbeholden football field. That's a little fast. And that is to the eastern section of the property. It expands about 400 meters to the east. That building that you're seeing in the center of the screen is the infant school that currently exists. And that's the Dunbeholden football field. So our entrance to the property is just about to the right of the screen. All right, and we're going to do our 360 and around.
All that land is.
And we are looking now to the eastern section of the property. So that to the extent of the land. Let me see if I can go just a little bit higher. Into where we're seeing the small patch. That's where the property bounds for our 20 acres of land. And then we turn all the way to the east. And just beyond that little farming patch is the next section of a boundary.
Okay.
So if we're around and we look down, we should be able to see.
So that's Gore.
Yes. That's Phoenix Park.
Phoenix Park. Right. So you're in proximity to an existing housing. Well, you'll be all around housing development. All right, good.
And let me see if we can get around to having a shot overhead.
All right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
From the National Education Trust, and we're going to be calling on all of them There are also going to be a couple of people who will be looking
a perfect shot. Perfect.
as well as Latoya Harris Garten from the National Education Trust, as well as Dr. the Chief Education Officer forward. They're just going to be standing a couple of meters behind the Prime Minister and his team. Again, the Prime Minister there with the Minister of Education, Favour Williams, and to the Minister's right,
Let me show you the video.
Jackson, who is the Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern, to the Prime Minister's other side is Mr. Ryan Reid, who's Chairman of the National Education Trust, and Mr. Linval Freeman from the person who gave us the land. Just a couple of meters behind where we're seeing right there the Chief Education Officer, as well as the Permanent Secretary, as well as Latoya Harris Garten from the National Education Trust. Once everyone's ready, just making sure that everyone has their safety gear on. I think we may be missing two more. Mr. Christian, sorry. I think we may be missing two more. Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
One,
two more hard hats.
Heads up, everybody. Heads up, heads up.
Slow turn. Ready?
Ready.
Turn.
Action.
Slow. Only one time.
Just a second, please. We're just inviting the members of the net board forward so we can take a photo opportunity. So members of the National Education Trust, members of the board, please join the party that's right there at the official landmarking so we may get the official photos done. One second. Let me just take this. Can we see everyone? Photographers just want to make sure we can see everyone. I'm not seeing the Dr. True very clearly. Are we good? All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Partially big.
All right, thank you everyone.